The quiet suburban neighborhood of Springfield, Illinois, seemed like the perfect place to raise a family. Neatly trimmed lawns, friendly neighbors, and a sense of safety defined this idyllic community. Yet behind the closed doors of the Calloway residence, a dark secret simmered, destined to erupt into tragedy. Emma Calloway, a 45-year-old woman with an alluring charm and a mysterious past, had become the second wife of John Calloway, a successful businessman. John, 50, was dedicated to providing a comfortable life for his family, often traveling for work and leaving his wife and son alone. Emma's stepson, Ryan, had recently returned from college, bringing unresolved tensions and new dynamics to the household. Emma and Ryan were an unlikely pair. Emma, the captivating stepmother with a hidden past, and Ryan, the troubled young man searching for acceptance. Their lives, intertwined in secrecy and passion, would soon spiral out of control, leading to a violent and tragic end. Emma Calloway had always been a woman of contradictions. Beneath her polished exterior lay a turbulent past she had carefully concealed. She had married John 5 years earlier, hoping to leave behind a string of failed relationships and personal misfortunes. To the outside world, she was a devoted wife and stepmother, but the facade masked her deep-seated insecurities and yearning for validation. Emma had grown up in a small town, the daughter of a single mother who struggled to make ends meet. Her early life was marked by instability and hardship, experiences that left her with a desperate need for security and affection. After a series of tumultuous relationships, Emma saw John as her ticket to a stable and prosperous life. She embraced her role as a stepmother to Ryan, hoping to build a new, happy family. Ryan Calloway, 20, was a strikingly handsome young man with a troubled soul. His relationship with his father was strained, marked by years of unmet expectations and silent resentments. College had been an escape, but returning home only rekindled old tensions. Emma, who seemed to understand him in ways his father never could, became his confidant. Their bond grew stronger and boundaries blurred. Ryan had always felt overshadowed by his father's success and high expectations. He struggled to find his own identity, often feeling like he was living in John's shadow. College provided a temporary respite, a chance to be his own person. However, upon returning home, Ryan found himself slipping back into old patterns of conflict and frustration. Emma's attention and understanding were like a lifeline, something he desperately needed. John Calloway was a man driven by ambition. His success in business came at the cost of his personal life. Often away on business trips, he remained oblivious to the growing turmoil at home. He loved his wife and son, but was unaware of the emotional chasms widening between them. His desire to provide for his family had inadvertently created a void that Emma and Ryan filled in dangerous ways. John had always been a hard worker, climbing the corporate ladder through sheer determination and skill. He wanted to give his family everything he never had growing up, which meant long hours and frequent travel. He assumed that providing financially was enough, not realizing that his emotional absence was taking a toll on Emma and Ryan. By the time he noticed the changes in their behavior, it was too late. It started innocently enough. Late-night conversations over shared cups of tea, lingering glances, and the solace of understanding each other's loneliness. Emma and Ryan found comfort in their connection, a bond that soon turned into a forbidden attraction. One night, after John had left for a week-long business trip, Emma and Ryan found themselves sitting on the porch, the warm summer air wrapping around them like a blanket. They talked about their dreams, their fears, and the frustrations they faced. They laughed, shared secrets, and grew closer with each passing day. Emma found herself looking forward to their talks, feeling a flutter of excitement whenever she was around Ryan. For Ryan, Emma was a beacon of understanding and warmth in a world that often felt cold and judgmental. Their affair began in secrecy. They met in hidden corners of the house when John was away, stole moments in the dead of night. The thrill of their clandestine relationship overshadowed the guilt they both felt. One evening, after a particularly intense conversation, Ryan leaned in and kissed Emma. She hesitated for a moment, the weight of their actions pressing down on her. But the desire and connection between them were too strong to resist. They became adept at sneaking around, finding opportunities to be together without arousing suspicion. Emma would leave the back door unlocked, and Ryan would slip into her room late at night. They shared moments of intense intimacy, whispering sweet nothings and making promises they knew they couldn't keep. As the affair intensified, so did the tension. Emma struggled with the moral implications of her actions, while Ryan became increasingly possessive and dependent on her. Their secret was a ticking time bomb, and they both knew it. Emma's guilt grew with each passing day. She loved John, despite their differences, and knew that betraying him with his own son was unforgivable. She tried to distance herself from Ryan, but the magnetic pull between them was too strong. Ryan, on the other hand, became more possessive, fearing that Emma would end their affair and leave him alone once again. Their relationship began to take a toll on their mental health. Emma was plagued by anxiety and sleepless nights, while Ryan's emotions swung wildly between elation and despair. They fought often, their arguments fueled by jealousy and insecurity. The strain of their secret was becoming too much to bear. John Calloway was not entirely oblivious to the changes at home. He noticed the shift in dynamics, the stolen glances between his wife and son, and the uncomfortable silence that replaced their usual banter. His suspicions grew, but he chose to ignore them, attributing the changes to Ryan's return from college. John tried to reconnect with his family, suggesting outings and dinners to bridge the growing gap. But the atmosphere at home remained tense. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, and his attempts to get to the bottom of it only seemed to make things worse. One fateful night, John's suspicions could no longer be ignored. He confronted Emma, demanding to know the truth. The argument quickly escalated, voices rising in anger and desperation. Ryan, hearing the commotion, rushed into the room. "What's going on?" Ryan asked, his voice tinged with panic. John turned to him, his face red with rage. You're the reason everything's falling apart. What have you done?" Emma tried to intervene, her voice pleading. "John, please, calm down. We can talk about this." But John was beyond reasoning. He grabbed Emma's arm, his grip tight and painful. "Tell me the truth, Emma. Are you having an affair with my son?" Emma's eyes filled with tears, unable to deny the truth any longer. "John, I'm so sorry. It wasn't supposed to happen. We didn't mean for it to go this far." Ryan stepped forward, his face a mask of fear and determination. "Dad, let her go. This isn't her fault." In the chaos, Ryan's emotions boiled over. In a fit of rage and confusion, he shoved his father. John stumbled, hitting his head on the edge of a table. The room fell silent as John's body crumpled to the floor, lifeless. The reality of what had happened hit Emma and Ryan like a wave, crashing down and pulling them into a sea of panic and despair. Emma knelt beside John's body, her hands shaking as she checked for a pulse. "Oh my God, Ryan, what have we done?" Ryan stood frozen, his mind unable to process the enormity of their actions. "I didn't mean to. I didn't want this to happen." Emma looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear. "We have to do something. We can't let anyone know about this." Emma and Ryan were consumed by panic. Their first instinct was to cover up the crime. They staged the scene to look like a robbery gone wrong, scattering items and breaking a window to support their fabricated story. They worked frantically, trying to erase any evidence of their involvement. Emma's mind raced as she planned their next steps, her fear of being caught fueling her actions. Ryan followed her lead, his hands trembling as he moved furniture and broke glass to create the illusion of a struggle. They disposed of John's body in a remote location, hoping to buy time before anyone discovered the truth. They meticulously cleaned the crime scene, scrubbing away any trace of blood and trying to erase the evidence of their involvement. Emma and Ryan drove out to a secluded area, their hearts pounding with every mile. They buried John's body in a shallow grave, their minds numb with shock and fear. As they covered the grave with dirt, the reality of their actions began to sink in. "Do you think this will work?" Ryan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "It has to. We don't have any other choice." With trembling hands, Emma called the police, reporting a home invasion and her husband's disappearance. She put on a convincing show of distress, hoping to divert suspicion away from herself and Ryan. "Hello? Police? There's been a break-in. And my husband. He's missing!" Emma's voice was shaky and filled with fake panic as she spoke to the dispatcher. She provided the address and waited anxiously for the authorities to arrive, rehearsing her story in her mind. Detective Martinez was assigned to the case. A seasoned investigator known for her keen intuition and sharp mind, Martinez had a reputation for solving even the most challenging cases. She arrived at the Calloway residence, ready to uncover the truth. As she stepped into the house, her eyes took in the scene. The broken glass, the scattered items. It all seemed too deliberate. Something didn't sit right with her. "Mrs. Calloway and Detective Martinez, can you tell me exactly what happened?" she asked, her tone professional, yet probing. Emma, clutching a tissue, recounted her rehearsed story. "I was upstairs when I heard the sound of breaking glass. When I came down, the place was a mess. And John, he was gone." Martinez nodded, taking notes. "And you didn't hear or see anyone leaving?" Emma shook her head. "No, I was too scared to come down right away." The police found inconsistencies in Emma's story. Neighbors reported hearing a domestic dispute on the night of John's disappearance, contradicting her account of a silent, stealthy break-in. Detective Martinez interviewed the neighbors, piecing together their accounts. "We heard shouting, like a heated argument," one neighbor said. "It didn't sound like a robbery." Martinez's suspicion grew. She returned to the Calloway home to question Emma and Ryan separately. Detective Martinez first spoke with Ryan. His nervousness was palpable, and his answers were vague and inconsistent. "I was in my room when it all happened," he stammered. "I didn't hear anything until my mom screamed." Martinez pressed further. "Your neighbors mentioned hearing an argument. Can you explain that?" Ryan's face turned pale. "I don't know. Maybe they were mistaken." Next, Martinez questioned Emma again. This time, she focused on the relationship between Emma, John, and Ryan. "Mrs. Calloway, were there any tensions at home? Any conflicts?" Emma hesitated, her mind racing for a plausible answer. "John and Ryan didn't always see eye to eye, but nothing serious." Martinez noted the hesitation. She had seen this before, people trying to hide something. She decided to dig deeper into the family's background. Forensic evidence soon contradicted the robbery scenario. Blood traces found in the living room and on the edge of a table suggested a violent confrontation. Additionally, there were no signs of forced entry, leading Martinez to suspect that the intruder was someone familiar with the house. The forensic team analyzed the blood spatter patterns, determining that the injury had occurred in the living room, not at the supposed point of entry. This revelation further fueled Martinez's suspicions. She also reviewed phone records, finding numerous late-night calls between Emma and Ryan. This unusual communication pattern raised more red flags. Martinez decided it was time to turn up the heat. She brought Emma and Ryan in for another round of questioning, this time applying psychological pressure to exploit their guilt and fear. "Mrs. Calloway, we found some inconsistencies in your story," Martinez began, her tone firm but calm. "The blood patterns suggest John was injured in the living room. Can you explain that?" Emma's composure began to crack. I don't know. Maybe he was hurt trying to stop the intruder." Martinez leaned in, her gaze unwavering. "Mrs. Calloway, I think there's more to this story. The phone records show a lot of late-night calls between you and Ryan. What were you discussing?" Emma's eyes widened in panic. "We were just talking about family matters." Martinez turned her attention to Ryan. "Ryan, your mother is trying to protect you, but the evidence is piling up. It's time to come clean. What really happened that night?" Under the intense questioning, Ryan's resolve crumbled. Tears streamed down his face as he began to speak. "It was an accident. I didn't mean to hurt him." Martinez remained calm, encouraging him to continue. "Tell me what happened, Ryan." Ryan recounted the confrontation, his voice shaking. "Dad was furious. He grabbed Mom and I just wanted to protect her. I shoved him and he fell. It was an accident." Martinez nodded, her expression serious but understanding. "Thank you, Ryan. I know this is difficult." Realizing the hopelessness of their situation, Emma admitted to her role in the cover-up. After John fell, we panicked. We didn't know what to do. We thought if we made it look like a robbery, we could avoid the truth coming out. Martinez took detailed notes, piecing together their accounts. The web of lies and deceit had finally unraveled. Emma and Ryan were arrested and charged with murder and obstruction of justice. The trial became a media sensation, drawing attention to the tragic and scandalous details of the case. The courtroom was packed with reporters and spectators, all eager to see how the drama would unfold. Emma and Ryan sat side by side, their expressions a mix of resignation and fear. The prosecution presented a compelling case, detailing the affair, the confrontation, and the subsequent cover-up. They painted a picture of a family torn apart by deceit and passion. The quiet neighborhood was shocked by the revelations. Friends and family struggled to comprehend the tragedy that had unfolded in their midst. Neighbors who once admired the Calloways now whispered in hushed tones, unable to reconcile the image of the perfect family with the dark reality. Local news outlets ran stories about the case, interviewing neighbors and former friends. "We never would have guessed," one neighbor said. "They seemed like such a happy family." After a lengthy trial, the jury reached a verdict. Emma was sentenced to life in prison for her role in the crime, while Ryan received a reduced sentence due to his age and the accidental nature of the incident. The judge took into account Ryan's remorse and the mitigating circumstances, but emphasized the gravity of their actions. As Emma was led away in handcuffs, she glanced back at Ryan, her eyes filled with sorrow and regret. Ryan, tears streaming down his face, mouthed a silent apology to his mother. The story concluded with Detective Martinez reflecting on the case, pondering the thin line between love and obsession and the devastating consequences of secrets and lies. She knew that the tragedy of the Calloway family would stay with her for a long time, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors. Martinez returned to her office, filing away the case notes. She stared out the window, lost in thought. "Sometimes the truth is more twisted than we can ever imagine," she murmured to herself. The Calloway case had been solved, but the scars it left behind would take years to heal. For the quiet neighborhood of Springfield, life would never be quite the same again. This true crime story encapsulates the tragic downfall of the Calloway family, driven by forbidden love, betrayal, and the desperate lengths people will go to protect their secrets. The events that transpired serve as a chilling reminder of how fragile the veneer of normalcy can be and how quickly it can shatter, revealing the darkness that lies beneath.